Welcome to an episode of Curiosity Cure. The city of Piltover was forever changed by the combined genius of Jayce and Viktor. With the creation of Hextech, the world was revolutionized. While there is no denying that Jayce and Viktor were key pioneers of Hextech, they are far from the first to ever utilize the gemstones. In the show, we see a flashback of Jayce and his mother trapped in a snowstorm, before being saved by a mysterious figure, who used a hex crystal to teleport them to safety. In the present day, we see Jayce experimenting with the same crystals. However, the show does not make it abundantly clear how he came by the crystals in such quantities. We know in the lore, it is the Ferros Clan that mainly harvests the crystals. While the Arcane series does seem to overwrite some of the Canon lore, we speculate it will retain most of its main integrity. So in this video, we will look at the origin of the first hex crystals, the tragic story of the Ferros Clan, and speculate how it all fits into Arcane. But before we get started, if you enjoy our content, please consider subscribing and giving this video a like. While the Ferros were only briefly mentioned in Arcane, they play an instrumental role in the collective lore of Piltover as a whole. Unless the screenwriters plan to write them out of the story, they will most likely rise to prominence in the upcoming season of Arcane. This is only speculation, but the Ferros are probably the very first Piltovians to utilize and harvest the crystals used to create Hextech. In order to understand why they might be the first, we have to dwell deep into the lore and look at their history, which unveils crucial details of the origins of the stones. In the following section, the story of the Ferros will be told from the perspective of Camille, the chief intelligencer and the backbone of the clan.
For family, I will give. This was the motto of my clan, the Ferros. Long ago, my great-great-aunt lost an arm during an early expedition, hence the motto. Her sacrifice, although great, granted us something greater. Something that made us the most powerful clan in all of Piltover. What she discovered was a race of crystalline scorpions. The Brackens, as they were called, held a crystal each, containing unfathomable powers. We do not know where the arcane originated within the crystal. Only that with it, we wielded power that is normally only possessed by those with innate magical abilities. The crystals were a limited resource. However, our decades of research have proven to be useful. Utilizing shadow investments in chemtech and runic alchemy, we managed to develop less powerful, but easier to produce synthetic variants. Yet there were still consequences. The production of the synthetic crystals causes enormous pollution, which is rumored to heavily contribute to the Zorn Grey. A filthy fog coating all of Zorn, making the air virtually unbreathable to outsiders without filtration. While the environmental concerns seemed valid to my young mind at the time, I understood, even then, that to ensure the future of our clan, our family, there is nothing that we wouldn't do. As the eldest child of my clan, I received every education possible. The long list of world-class tutors taught me several languages, the Chelovina, which I adored, and the duties of chief intelligencer, which entailed combat, reconnaissance, and interrogation. Chief Intelligencer was originally supposed to be my younger brother Stefan's role. However, due to his delicate constitution and lack of resolve, my father believed he was not fit to serve the role. And I naturally inherited the additional training. When I was 25, my life was forever changed one night. Augmented Zornite thugs attacked me and my father, intending to steal our trade secrets. My father, in an effort to protect me, succumbed to his wounds. My mother, in her mourning, soon followed him. In the sea of chaos, my brother Stefan became the clan master, and he immediately doubled our research in human Hextech augmentation. I suspect it was his way as a show of strength. A year after the passing of our parents, Stefan hired Hakim Naderi, a promising young crystallographer from the Shuram and coastal cities, as the family's head Hextech artificer. And for the first time in a year, I saw hope. Hope for a chance at revenge. The empty feeling of helplessness soon turned into boiling rage within my heart. I needed something to push me beyond my human limitations. A Hextech augmentation that the world has never seen. Hakim was instantly enamored with my proposal, or with me. It hardly matters now. However, the more time I spent with Hakim, the more I felt for him. Eventually, I could help myself no longer and returned his feelings. Our affair was trivial and reckless. We both knew the surgery would conclude our time together. Hakim would move on to other projects, and I would resume my duties as the chief intelligencer of my clan. But beyond that, Hakim was concerned that replacing my heart with that of a Hextech core would replace my humanity and my affection for him. Days before my operation, Hakim proposed to me and begged me to run away with him. For the first time in my life, I was torn between my duty and my personal feelings. However, my brother saw no such conflict. He needed me at my absolute best to fulfill his vision. One of the many spies he placed by my side discovered the proposal and promptly informed him. The next time I saw him, he was bloodied and bruised. He had plotted an attack on himself to show me what would happen if my attention was divided. From that moment forward, all my hesitations vanished and I was fully committed to my family. It would be years before I learned of the true nature of his scheme, but at that point, I had let go of all I was, and had fully embraced my duties. But deep down, I felt a chilling, silent betrayal, one that was engraved into the very essence of my being, and no amount of augmentation could cut away. That day many years ago, Hakim pleaded with me, but with all my willpower, I ended our relationship, and insisted that the surgery must go forward. The tragic irony was that Hakim was the only person capable of performing the operation. I do not dare think what it must have felt to cut away the heart of the person you love. When I awoke, the time we spent together was forever lost as distant memories, and I was reborn. For many years, I focused on my work, taking on further enhancements, including razor-sharp legs, grapple-spindled hips, and other minor hex augmentations. This would lead some to wonder how much of me was left. As my clan amassed more power and wealth, my mission, my way of protecting the family, became darker and more dangerous. Thanks to my Hextech heart, I did not age. But the years were not so kind to my brother. Yet even as he grew frailer, he retained control of the clan. However, the patience I had for my brother would eventually wear out. As one day, he would betray me and attempt to have me killed. On that day, any reminiscence of love I had for my brother faded away, and I faced the cold hard truth. Something I should have realized long ago. Stevan has put his selfish interest above the interest of our clan. I recognized that keeping him alive was no longer in our clan's best interest. So on that fateful day, the same day I learned of Hakim's death, the same day he tried to have me killed, I stopped his heart. I had wept all my tears long ago, and so there were none left to come to me now. That day's event only reaffirmed my beliefs. In the old laboratory that I shared with Hakim, I found drawings of my face. The lines of ink wavered in the blue light of the machine that replaced my heart. What I was. What I gave up. All the sharp-toothed sacrifice that made me who I am today. All of it was rendered in painstaking detail. I could hold the past but never have it again. Without a second's hesitation, I've tossed Hakim's lifework, the past, into the flames.
Camille's action is the epitome of the values of the Ferros Clan. She encompassed the understanding of sacrifice better than anyone in the lore. It would be interesting to see how Arcane ties her into the story. The reason why the Ferros story is so instrumental is that it fills the time gap in Arcane. The time before the age of Hextech, and the events following Season 1. At first glance, it might seem impossible to fit the pre-existing lore into the Arcane narrative. Because if Jayce was the true discoverer and inventor of Hextech, what role will the Ferros play in Arcane? After many hours of piecing everything together, a logical theory became apparent. Keep in mind all this is just speculation and by no means canon. Long ago, Camille's great-great-aunt Alicia would set forth on an expedition deep into the deserts of Shurima, where she would be the first Piltovians to encounter the race of the furtive Brackerns, and discover the peculiar powers they held within their namestones. Or as we call it, the Hex Crystals. We know that she is likely the first Piltovian to encounter the Brackerns from the lore titled, Dream Song, where the story is told from the viewpoint of Skarner. Skarner would witness his brethren being separated from their namestones. In a fit of rage, he would emerge from the sands and slay the humans that seek to destroy his race. Skarner would kill all but one of the humans. It is heavily believed that this human is Alicia. As we know from the lore, she is the first to encounter these creatures. The story also tells us that she might be the first to use these crystals. As Skarner's story reads, she aims her weapon again, and I shake with horror as I see the paling namestone strapped to it. Her weapon drains our life energy. They are wasting crystals to power their terrible song. Song, in this context, is referring to one's dreams and ambition. From the bio, we know that each Brackern hosts a single crystal, which is the mantle of their memories, hopes, and dreams. Alicia would certainly have great ambitions for the crystal. She would lose an arm the day she encounters Skarner. But this wouldn't stop her from using it. She would bring the crystals back to her clan. For an entire generation, it would be a closely guarded secret of the Ferros Clan, as they can't afford to let another clan discover it. They would approach shadow figures deep in Zong, to covertly experiment and research the crystals, in hopes of one day unlocking its full potential. Decades later, a mother and her son would be trapped in a snowstorm. On the brink of death, they would be saved by a sorcerer. One that wielded the powers of the hex crystals. This would be the life-changing event that sparks Jayce's ambitions to pursue a career in science. In the show, he attends Piltover University and is sponsored by the Kiramans, one of the most powerful clans in Piltover. It is likely that during one of the Kiramans' expeditions, they would encounter the crystals. Unaware of its potency, they brought it back to Jayce for him to experiment. With the combined genius of Jayce and Viktor, they brought Piltover into the age of Hextech. It is also a possibility that Mel Medarda was aware of the existence of these hex crystals long before Jayce got his hands on them. In the second episode, we see a brief casual dialogue as Mel was briefed on her business status. While we do not know the exact nature of her business, we know she has close business ties with the Ferros. As they said that it is thanks to their technology that she's the richest in Piltover. This is further supported by the fact that she's the only counselor that supported Jayce's experiments. While others saw it as dangerous and a waste of resources. It is highly doubtful that this is just reckless optimism, as we know Mel has one of the brightest political minds. She wouldn't risk her reputation for something unless it was truly worthy. The only reason we can find for her to pursue such action is if she was aware of the full potential that the hex crystals might bring. Following the finale of Season 1, the Ferros will become the most powerful clan in all of Piltover. From Camille's bio, we learned that the Ferros clan controls a monopoly on the synthetic hex crystals market. After the demand for Hextech weaponry becomes abundant, the supply of the crystals would be far exceeded. The Ferros, with decades of experience, will eventually succeed in producing a synthetic variant. To recap, Alicia first encounters the crystals, and brings them back to her clan for further experimentation. Jayce and his mother are saved by a hex crystal user, leading Jayce to pursue science. Jayce and Viktor, with the support of Mel, successfully stabilize the hex crystals. And finally, the Ferros began amassing power, capitalizing on their ability to recreate the crystals. While this theory is not flawless, it is the route that makes the most sense without rewriting too much of the canon lore. Perhaps Camille will finally make an appearance in the upcoming season. Anyways, that's all for today. Let us know what you think of this theory in the comments section below, and what you would like to see next. As always, have a good day.